Hi there, guys. Welcome back to my channel, Nico Talks Hockey. Today, I want to talk about the Chicago Blackhawks, and the season's right around the corner, right? I mean, it's September. In a month, we'll have NHL hockey back. Training camps are about to open, and in 3 weeks, we're gonna have preseason hockey. It's such an exciting time. It's almost my favorite time of the year. Well, I'd say playoffs are my favorite time of the year. This is almost my second favorite time of the year. But it's just, I can't wait. The air is getting a little crispier, and it's just about time for hockey season. But for the Chicago Blackhawks, my favorite team, I'm going to be following them very closely this season. There's a lot of storylines to watch, right? I mean, Connor Bedard entering into his junior season. There's a lot of critics about his game this past season. And I'm sure he's out to prove all the critics and haters wrong. This is a very, very young squad. But today I want to look at the lines, the roster predictions. I want to look at who I think what the lines will look like on game one of the regular season. I believe they're opening the season against the back-to-back Stanley Cup champs, the Florida Panthers. So they're not, the schedule makers are not making it easy on the Blackhawks once again. But yeah, so I just want to get into it. I think this is one of my favorite things to do, is just look at lines and kind of like predict the rosters and where they'll kind of line up. The Blackhawks have a new coach, right? Jeff Blashill. So it's kind of really up in the air about what he's going to want. But I think he's going to let the kids play. So I think a lot of these young guys are going to get some big minutes here. So let's start with the forward group, right? On line one, you've got Bedard centering that group, right? But on his wings, you've got a lot of options. I do think that Frank Nazar looked so good last season, towards the end of that last season, on his wing. But I don't think he's going to end up there. I think that would be really cool, but I think they need someone that they really trust to be in that second line center position, and I think they're kind of grooming Nazar to be that guy. Now, I know he's kind of small. I'm a big believer in Nazar, but you want your centers. I mean, Bedard's under 6 foot. Nazar's 5'10" at most. So that's kind of a smaller 1-2 center punch. Now, I'm also a believer in that size isn't everything. I think that, it can absolutely be overcome, especially if you've got some wings who are a little bit bigger. But for Bedard's line, I have Donato, 30-plus goal scorer, on his left wing. And I have the new addition, Andrei Burakovsky, on his right. I think that Burakovsky, I think he's going to surprise some people. I think that as long as he can stay healthy, he can absolutely be like a top 6 player in someone's group. So I think that, and judging by Kyle Davidson's kind of comments when they acquired him and towards like the end of season media availability, I think that Burakovsky will absolutely play in the top 6 in some capacity, unless he's like completely injured or he's forgotten how to play hockey. I think they're going to give him a real long run in that top 6. But I predict he'll be on that first line. So yeah, first line, Donato, Bedard, Burakovsky. Second line, Nazar centering it, right? Bertuzzi played well under Jeff Blashill, so I expect him to be given top 6 minutes. I was not a fan of how he played last season. His inconsistency drove me crazy at times during the season, but I think that you also look at his track record over the years, and when he signs with a new team, he has a pretty bad first season, and then he kind of acclimates. So I predict that will be what happens with Bertuzzi once again. His second season will be much better than his first. So I have him on the second line with Nazar on the left. I don't think he's going to be on the right. I think he's more of a left wing than a right wing. I know he's played right wing before, but just what I watched last season, I think he's much more suited for the left. And then I have Teravainen on the right. I was considering putting Teravainen on the third line just because of how just unenamored I was with him last season. But I think that with a new coach, with new eyes, I think that he will get another shot at it. And I'm hoping it sticks. So he's a great playmaker. If Nazar can be both a goal scorer and a playmaker, and then Teravainen's kind of the playmaker, and then Bertuzzi is a goal scorer, I think that can complement each other pretty well. On the third line, you've got Dickinson centering that line. He's centered that line for the past 2 seasons. Last season went quite poorly for him, but the season before was an awesome year. So I expect maybe somewhere in the middle for this upcoming season. When he's at his best, he is a awesome defensive presence, one of the best defensive forwards actually in the whole game. His advanced analytics point to that. And then when he's at his best, he's also contributing some points. I would expect maybe 30 points out of him this season. On his wings, I have Lucas Reichel on the left wing. A lot of pundits have Reichel just completely being out of the lineup. They can't find a place for him. But I think that the Blackhawks would have traded Reichel if they didn't have some plans for him still. So I think that Reichel's going to be playing, and you don't keep him around if you don't have him playing in the top 9 somewhere. Honestly, I'd like to see him. I've seen a ton of, he's been working hard in the offseason. I've seen tons of footage about him and read a lot of articles about it. And I'm really impressed, and I'm really excited to see how he performs in preseason and training camp. So I'm hoping he actually earn a top 6 spot, maybe next to Nazar. But right now I do have him in the third line. An improvement from last year where he was stuck on the fourth line with Maroon and Craig Smith. So yeah, on the third line, if he can be, I don't expect his defensive game to improve a lot, but that's okay because Dickinson and then the person I have on the right, which is Ilya Mikheyev, they are two really, really good defensive forwards. So if they can be the defense presence and then Reichel brings the offense, and it's not like Mikheyev actually had a career year last season. So if he can just somewhat keep that up, he'll have some decent partners who can cover him defensively, but also maybe set up some plays as a nice third line. And then moving on to our fourth line here. Recently reacquired for the third or fourth time, Sam Lafferty. I think he's going to be centering. I think they'll have Slaggert, Landon Slaggert, I think is his name, and then Nick Foligno, the captain, on the right side. Foligno's not a center, and Slaggert can play center, but with his age, I think they won't give such a big responsibility there. I think they'll just happily have him on that fourth line in a wing spot. Lafferty, he worked really well with the Blackhawks when he was here in his short time here. So I'm hoping I think the Hawks are hoping that he can regain that and return to form. Blackhawks Lafferty form, which is just kind of your shutdown pair. There's no offense there. Lafferty provides some offense in his time here, but Foligno in his age and Slaggert, he's more of a grinder. It may surprise you here and there, but this is a very lackluster offensive fourth line. It's more for just shutting you down. So yeah, that's my forward core. I do have Kirby Dach. It's Colton Dach. I have Colton Dach as the 13th forward, someone who'll kind of sit in the press box. I thought he maybe be in the AHL, but I think Oliver Moore will spend some time in the AHL, much like Frank Nazar this past season. They'll let him maturate in the AHL, and then when he's ripe, they'll call him up. So Doc is the 13th forward, sitting in the press box most nights. Maybe when they want to bring someone out, they'll put Doc in. Moving on to the defense. This is so much I think the defense is so interesting and fun to talk about because besides Connor Murphy, this defense, there's no one here who's there's no one here who's older than 24 years old. And that person's Vlasic, who's 24. Everyone else is 21 or younger. So this is probably, I'm almost sure this is the youngest defense core in the entire NHL. But that's okay. I think that these guys, when you're a rebuilding team, especially in the next phase of the rebuild that the Blackhawks are in, you got to play your young guys. You got to see what you've got, and you got to let them learn the game. You can't just shelter them at all times. So Vlasic, you put in that top pair, right? You put him on the left side and top pair. He's been there for 2 years now. He had a bit of a down year last season. I expect him to fully go back to that first season form and be just an awesome defensive presence that chips in offensively here and there. On the top pairing on the right side, it's Sam Renzel. I think that most people would predict that he's there, and for good reason. In his very short time with the Chicago Blackhawks last season, he came up and he looked like a seasoned veteran with only like 10 games he played. So it was incredibly awesome to see as a Hawks fan, and I'm sure other fans of other teams, they were probably a little surprised and didn't realize that this guy was ready to rock. Frank Zaravalli, NHL analyst, he was saying that he predicts Rinzel to have a Brock Faber-like presence this coming season. So if that's at any part true, I'm so excited. Just so excited to see what Rinzel can bring. I do expect Artem Levchinov, who I have on the second line on the right side, I do expect him to have the higher ceiling. I think that he'll have higher heights when it's all said and done. But for right now, I think Rinzel has a more mature game on both sides of the ice, right? I think that offensively and defensively, he's more impactful. But I do think that Levchinov will probably get power play one quarterback opportunities a lot this season. So he'll be on the second pairing. And I think that on the right, I do think, although he's unsigned right now, he's the last player to be unsigned for Chicago, Wyatt Kaiser. Wyatt Kaiser has really grown on me this past season. He spent some time in the AHL and then he came back up again and he looked like a completely different player. He's somehow like defensemen just take a little longer to maturate and to reach kind of who they're going to be. So I think Kaiser's one of those players where it just takes a little bit. I really like Kaiser's game. I think it's very well-rounded. Someone who's quite responsible defensively, just has to keep it up the consistency on that end, while also really nice breakout kind of player where he can do breakout passes and he can exit the zone quite effectively. So I think putting him with Levchinov instead of someone like Del Mastro, who I have on the third line. Del Mastro, although he's all defense, you'd think that'd be good with someone like Levchinov, who's more offense at this point. But in the AHL, Del Mastro and Levchinov did not work together well. So I think that I'm just going to bet that still doesn't work well and have Kaiser with Levchinov. Del Mastro, I'm going to have the third line of defense. I'm going to have that as the all-defense pair where there's no offense. It's Del Mastro and Connor Murphy on the right. So I really like Del Mastro. I've been a fan of his ever since his draft plus 1 year where I got to see a little bit more of him and then just read more about his game. And I just love him as an underrated defensive presence. Someone who will be, a third liner, a third line defense, fifth defenseman probably for his career. But that every team needs one of those. And I'm very happy if he can be that for Chicago. Not just for now, but if he can be that going forward, that'd be really, really cool to already have someone like that on our team. And then as a seventh D, someone who will sit most nights in the press box, but he's a right-hand defenseman, so it's someone who can fill in if Murphy, who's been known to be injured. It's Louis Crevier. Very big defenseman, but I'm not a big fan of his game. I think he's really they just re-signed him because he fits in nicely as someone you can just plug in if someone's injured. Just plug him in. But I don't expect Louis Crevier to be someone who sticks around for the long haul. Moving on to the goaltending. This one's pretty easy. Spencer Knight, who I think could actually get a big contract extension pretty soon here. They might want to see what they've got in him first, a little bit more, give him a little runway, and then sign him. But they may just want to take a huge bet and be you know what, we don't want to have to pay you a ton if you prove it. So we're just gonna go for it. So yeah, Spencer Knight, I fully expect to be the number one goalie for Chicago this year. I think he'll get at least 50% of the net. At least 55% of the net. But in the backup role is Arvid Soderblom. I think that's it's actually I think it's pronounced Soderblom, so I'm gonna pronounce it Soderblom. Arvid Soderblom. He had a really nice resurging year last season. I talked about it a little bit before, but Soderblom 2 seasons ago looked like he was not an NHL caliber goalie at all. He was one of the worst goalies in the league. His stats, his advanced stats, everything said this guy does not belong in the NHL. He worked on his game a lot, apparently, and he came back and he had a decent season. For a team that was as bad as Chicago was, he had a very decent season. So, he was near 500. I think he was like 0.02 below 500. So, sorry, 900. He was like 0.898 save percentage. So, yeah, I'll take it. So I think the tandem will be Knight and Soderblom. We don't really know much about Brossoit. I am banking on that he's still injured, from the fact that I haven't heard anything. Now, I have him on long-term injured reserve, but if he is available to go, if he's ready to play, I think we see a trade. I think we probably see Brossoit traded maybe to Edmonton or something like that. I could see them being traded. He'd been traded to Edmonton and the Hawks getting like a 5th-round pick back or something. Nothing crazy. But yeah, that's what I have. In terms of the people I left off, I think that there's some players who will be in the AHL. The biggest one is Korchinski. That's the biggest question mark for me. I wanted so badly to put him on this squad here, but I don't think he's fully ready yet. So until he shows Chicago management that he's fully ready, I think he starts in the AHL this season. It's a really tough position because there's so many defensive prospects here. You have to play, you can't play them all. So it's really interesting, especially because Korchinski's in the last season before he's in a contract here. Next season, he'll need a new contract. So I think we're going to see a trade eventually. I don't know if it's Wyatt Kaiser. I don't know if it's Korchinski. I mean, if it's Korchinski, that's really surprising because I know that Kyle Davidson was a big fan of being able to draft him in the first round when they did. We still don't know too much about Nolan Allen. I know that I was actually impressed with his game last season, but he's also kind of like Del Mastro, where he's kind of like a 5th, 6th defenseman. You can find those again. So maybe they trade Allen, but that doesn't, I don't know. I think that Kaiser has to be traded, which is crazy because I think that he's also great. So I don't know. It's a headache, but it's also a good problem to have, right? They'll go into training camp and they'll assess where they're at, and then they might make a move at the end of training camp or something like that. But that's definitely something to look out for. Nick Lardis, I think, although I'm really impressed with Lardis' game. I don't think he starts in the NHL this season. I think he takes some time in the AHL. I don't think that his game isn't ready for the NHL, at least in my opinion yet. Drew Commesso, future NHL goaltender. I think that he spends one last season in the AHL as Rockford's number 1 goalie. And I think that he's the number one goalie, right? I think that he takes 65% of the net. And he really goes to show, he'll show, upper management that he is over-ripened and he's ready to go next season. So that'll be really interesting, right? Maybe Soderblom is shipped out of town and next season we see like a Spencer Knight, Drew Commesso type of pairing. And then the last one is Oliver Moore. Oliver Moore is a player that I think very highly of. And some people have him playing maybe in the 3rd line this season. But like Nazar and like I think, who else? I was going to say like Lardis. I think that they're just going to wait. They don't have to rush them into the NHL right now. I think Rinzel and Moore, they came into the NHL at the same time last season. And I think that Rinzel showed that he was way more NHL ready, and Moore kind of needs more time to get adjusted to the pro game before being in the best league in the entire world. So yeah, that is my projections, my Game 1 roster lines and predictions for the Chicago Blackhawks this coming season. Thank you so much for watching. Let me know if you agree. I know this is a Blackhawks only video, but from time to time I really like to make these because they're my favorite team, and I just love talking about them. So let me know what you think. Let me know how you think they'll do. I'm saving my predictions, my point projections for this team for when I do kind of the whole league standings predictions, right? So I'm not gonna fully say where I think they're gonna finish, but I do think they're taking a step this year. How much of a step remains to be seen, and I will not share that just yet. But let me know what you think. Maybe if you let me know how many points you think the Blackhawks will end up with, and what do you think of this roster. Obviously, There's a lot of holes, and there's some players who shouldn't be as high up as they are here on this this depth chart. But that is the nature of a still in a rebuild roster. So thank you so much for watching. If you liked the video, please consider subscribing. It would mean so much to me. And I will see you guys in the next video.